Avatar Legends, the RPG, the role playing game, hit Kickstarter last week, and it shattered its funding goal. It has smashed stretch goal after stretch goal, and of course, this is something that's put out by Magpie Games, and I'm going to start out just by saying that my opinion of this Kickstarter and the panel are this is not a knock on the quality of books that Magpie puts out. Magpie puts out some terrific RPGs and some wonderful products, and there's some great people that are working behind this project. So just take that for what it is. I've heard a lot of folks talk about whether or not this is going to change the RPG market in the industry. I think that's a good conversation to have. As you can see right now, it's still going up quite a bit. It's already over $4.2 million with 23 days left as of this recording, and over 35,000 people backing this project. Congratulations to Magpie Games on this success. It's really great. As far as the panelists here, do are either of you fans of Avatar?
The show for sure. Yeah, I was a huge fan of the cartoon.
Nice. Ben, how about you?
I've not watched a single episode of Avatar. I've watched the movie, the M Night Shyamalan movie, which I'm told
Does
was a
not do that
mistake.
much justice,
So,
sadly.
but yeah, no, I'm not. I'm tangentially familiar with the world and kind of the story, just because it is so popular. It's gotten into the zeitgeist.
Yeah,
Like
it is. Yeah,
people know about Avatar who probably wouldn't normally.
absolutely. I'm kind of in the same boat as Ben. I know tangent, some surface knowledge of Avatar. I've tried watching the movie a couple times, but I always get interrupted, and I have not got a chance to finish it. Actually, I sat down with Sydney to try to watch it, and she got bored and did her own thing, so I tuned it off. I'm very excited. Whenever you see a Kickstarter that has this much success, it's I always get excited, but I also kind of put a little asterisk next to it, and we'll talk about my little asterisks that I have in regards to this Kickstarter, and hopefully that I'm just giving my thoughts on it. Hopefully that they're not actually the case, but yeah, I'm excited to see a new record for an RPG for crowdfunding. 35,000 people, 4.2 million. I mean, this thing is going to break probably $6 million if probably more than that before it's all said and done.
And that's not good. And that's not going to count all the late add-ons that people will eventually put in there too.
Right.
Pledge
So,
manager and that sort of thing. Yeah.
This is huge.
Yeah, it really is. Let's just show folks a little bit about what the Kickstarter is, what it entails. It entails a core rule book. Pretty much, they've got the featured pledge, which is $75. You're going to have your core rule book, a set of dice, your PDF, game mat, cards, all these supplements, dice bag, just a lot of content for $75. So
it is insane value for $75.
Yeah, I'm really a little bit nervous about that, to be honest with you.
I'll also tell folks that if you're interested in this Kickstarter, there is a link in the description of this video, and there is also a link to where you can sign up for Magpie's mailing list, and you'll be able to download the quick start that we have on screen right now. So you can actually start playing this game right away, which is really great. This game, man, holy smoke. I guess you can play in various eras. So if you're a fan of certain series of the show, you can play in those types of eras of Avatar. The book, I'm sure, is going to be really great quality because that's what Magpie does. They just do great quality books. This is a Powered by the Apocalypse game. Mm-hmm. So you're mostly rolling 2d6, and then based on what that is, it determines the percentage, if either success or failure or percentage of success. I'm not a huge fan of PBTA games. There are some PBTA games that I have really enjoyed, and then others have been kind of, I mean, that's okay. It's not really something that I've been, I could probably go okay without playing a PBTA game with this theme again. What are you guys' thoughts on PBTA games, Jason? How do you feel about PBTA?
PBTA is a great social game. If you want to do a lot of theater of the mind and you're not too concerned about the stats and mechanics actually of the game itself, because it's all, like you said, it's 2d6 plus a modifier. Depending on your role determines your degree of success. That degree of success determines what happens or what your GM is going to react to for you. And it's very much a back and forth between the GM and the player, less so than, hey, I know that I have X hit points and they have Y hit points, and if I run them out of hit points, I win. It's not like that at all. PBTA is not that game, if that's what you're looking for.
Sure.
That being said, as much as it's a different system and it's very unique and it's an enjoyable way to play, I don't particularly care for the system itself. I'm a big fan of the playbooks as source books for other things. I have quite a few Cyberpunk Powered by the Apocalypse supplements that I absolutely love. Like the people who produce supplements for PBTA are passionate. You do not get
absolutely.
a crappy PBTA supplement ever, in my experience.
That is definitely one thing. Like, I'm part of. I'm really glad that they didn't use a 5th edition hack for Avatar, just because
it needs this, because there's so much ambiguity in the bending, like air, earth, fire, and water.
Exactly.
You can't put a stat to it. Like if you put a damage amount on an air whip, then that game is going to go downhill fast. Yeah. Because then it's basically going to be like, hey, air whip is my equivalent of a dagger. It's my basic air attack. Nah, stabby, stabby.
And that's kind of where I'm at with this game, where I think if any theme is going to fit a PBTA game, this has a great chance of fitting that and being really there's certain PBTA games that just don't seem to jive with me, like I said, and this one looks like this one has the potential of really feeling like what it's intended to, and kind of go along with the setting that it takes place in. Ben, how about you? What are your thoughts on PBTA games?
So I've never played a PBTA game, but I've watched a few, and it definitely feels like it's the type of role play that I really enjoy. I like the do this, but maybe something isn't 100%, and that give and take between the game master and the players is a style that I really gravitate to. I actually just wrapped a 5th Ed campaign about a month ago now, and playing 5th Ed really, for as long as we did over the pandemic, really highlighted that that's not really the system that I respond to well, where you're just trying to hit numbers and make things. I like having that discussion at the table with how things go, how well things go, and maybe the consequences of the things you do. So I would be interested in checking out this game and other PBTA games as well. It seems like it will really resonate with me personally.
Sure. Now, since this game is such a popular, since this IP, I should say, is so popular, of course, a lot of these over 35,000 backers are going to be new RPG players. We're gonna get people that are interested in Avatar, that have never played an RPG game, and I think that this is great. This has potential to really be a boon for the indie RPG market, because this is going to be something that kind of takes role-playing games, and instead of a big chunky 5th edition book, that everybody knows and already play, kind of has the knowledge of, they're going to get probably a thinner book. I'm guessing it's a thinner book, and the rules are going to be a lot easier to kind of pick up, and so that'll be a lot easier to just kind of jump into and play, and not feel like you're
Yeah.
being, you're
Mhm.
playing catch up with folks that have already played fifth edition for years and years and years.
Yeah,
Um,
the learning curve is much smaller in a PBTA.
Yeah.
exactly. Um, I'm not quite sure how mm, that's going to spread across the market. I'd hope, and if anybody is watching this video and you're a new RPG player because of this Avatar Legends RPG, I want to say thank you for your interest in the indie RPG market and just in role playing games. And if you're excited about this Avatar RPG and you're a fan of other things, do some searching, because there is an RPG for pretty much anything out there right now, and there are some brilliant companies and brilliant minds, brilliant designers, brilliant publishers making some really fun RPGs. So if this is your first step, and if you're dipping your toes in the RPG market because of this RPG, check keep in the meantime, while this game is going to be published and probably designed and put out, check out some of these other games, because there's some great stuff out there, and there's some great folks making games. And I'm also going to say, welcome to our community, because we're glad that you're here, and we're the indie RPG market is some of the most welcoming folks, and they just want a game and create stories and have fun more than anything else. So welcome. That's my my initial thoughts on the new players. I'd be curious to know how many of these 35,000 people, or who knows what it's going to end at. I'd be curious to know what percentage of them are new RPG players. They have never played, any.
I'd say
kind of
probably
RPG.
no more than 15% are new.
You think no more than 15%? I was kind of leaning towards 15 to 20, somewhere around in there.
Yeah. I think there's a already fairly large overlap between Avatar fans and gamers.
Yeah, I think so too.
I wouldn't be surprised to find out if you really tapped into the indie game community, there's probably been lots of people who have done hacks for Avatar, overlaying it on other systems. Like there's probably an indie 5e hack for it somewhere out there on the internet. What this gives people is a solid base. Like if for everybody who's been like, well, my world is like Avatar, and we're gonna play, as either airbenders or firebenders or whichever. Now they're gonna have a source book where they can say, okay, now this is my core campaign book, and I'm just going to pick and choose what I'm using on it for my own game. So in that regard, I would say you're probably going to see most people are going to pick this up because they love Powered by the Apocalypse already.
Sure.
But about, like I said, 15% will be new people who are just like, holy cow, I've heard of Dungeons and Dragons and never really had much interest, but you can role play in the world of Avatar? That's kind of cool. I'll look at that.
Absolutely.
And it's a small book too. It's 8.5 by 11.
Yeah, it's
So it's very Powered by the Apocalypse standard. They don't do a lot of like gigantic tomes. I don't know how big these books will end up being, but
yeah, I was kind of looking. That was one thing I was kind of looking for was the page count, but it doesn't look like they have any
They don't have a full on page count. Apparently, the adventure booklets that come with it will be about 30 plus pages.
Nice.
So I mean, already through that, there's going to be 5 of those. So you're going to get 150 pages through that plus whatever the core book is. So like this will be a fair amount of page when it's all said and done.
yeah.
But yeah, the core book itself will definitely be very digestible.
my cyberpunk supplements for these things are tripping in at about 250 to 300 pages each, but they're super setting rich, which is one of the great things about PBTA. Actually, the system of PBTA gets the heck out of the way very fast, and then it's all just invest in the world.
Now there was one. What's we're going to talk about the retailer pledge
My
here for a minute.
cabbages.
For a minute, Ben, because Magpie did this odd thing with for retailers, which I had never seen before
Yeah.
with a Kickstarter. I think they were trying to do something different, and I have a couple theories as to why they did it, but I'm curious as a retailer yourself how you feel about this. And I think they've since changed the retailer pledge, but originally the retailer pledge was just going to be for the Kickstarter stretch goals and not the core rulebooks. They wanted you to order the core rulebooks through distribution. They've now said that you can now add the core rulebooks in the backer kit after the campaign is over. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this on the retailer pledge?
So I want to applaud Magpie for trying this out. I think this is a smart way in normal times for publishers to kickstart a game, but still not leave local stores and games distribution out of the loop. Games distribution is what the entire industry was really built upon. And seeing a lot of distributors have trouble, so showing that they're willing to work with those distributors who have helped, prop up these companies. Magpie, if they don't have a large hub distributors buying product from them and then sending it to the local stores, Magpie would have a infinitely harder time getting their product into places. So they recognize the value of the distributor, and I like that they wanted to reward that. Now with the projected supply chain issues, we're speculating we'll run into 2023 as everything gets sorted out. Things are going to take a long time to get sorted out. So one of the biggest concerns for retailers when we saw this was, this product looks fantastic. I don't want 12 dice sets sitting on my shelf because I couldn't get the core book. So, and because for whatever reason, distribution wasn't able to invest as much money bringing them in because of tight budgets and everything. So then they had to allocate to everyone that wanted it. If I back for 12 stretch goals and I only get 8 books, what am I going to do with that extra stuff while I wait for a reprint? I mean, it's just going to sit, and there's very few local game stores that can sit on a lot of product right now. And granted, four batches of stretch goals isn't a lot of product, but for some stores, that could be make or break between keeping the
it's an investment
the power bill on.
Product that's not selling. Yeah.
Right. Still, money.
This is one of those perfect world things, where if pre-COVID, this would be a great idea.
Fantastic.
When shipping was consistent and reliable, no worries. And honestly, as much momentum as this Kickstarter has, I'm hopeful that they're going to be able to offset the ridiculous shipping costs and be able to pull in all the books that they need for this. But it's a risk on a game that's cool, but could be very 35,000 people is a decent amount of people. But when you scatter that across the country and then scattered across states and then counties, how many Avatar fans are in your local area that are willing to pick this up to make it viable for you to carry?
And to kind of get to the nitty gritty of pricing, it's $120 for the retailer to get 4 batches of stretch goals. It breaks down to $30 per stretch goal. What is the recommended pledge there? It's $75 to the end backer. I can't sell that batch of stretch goals for $30. I have to sell it for $50, $60 to justify me bringing it in and giving it space on my shelf and time to sell. So if the stretch goals cost $60 and I'm trying to sell you a $50 core book, all of a sudden it doesn't make sense for the end backer to wait and get it through my store. It's more financial sense for them to get it directly through the Kickstarter itself. So I like it. I do. I think the numbers just are a little wonky this time. So I don't know. Everything looks great, but I am hesitant as a retailer to put my money into this right now.
The other thing is that no matter how many folks that they get to pledge for this, there's always going to be people that don't back it because they don't want to put the money up front for it's just because they don't want it sitting out there, and they just want to support their friendly local game store, which is fine. That brings me to my concerns about this Kickstarter. There are a few concerns that I have about this Kickstarter. Whenever you see a Kickstarter just explode and become, almost like, I don't want to call it, but like a fad, something that folks want. Like in the gaming industry, I think we see this. We kind of see this where when something is. I think we see it a lot with Frosthaven and Gloomhaven, like those type of board games where folks want to pledge because they want to be part of it, so then that they can say, oh yeah, I pledged for this because
I wasn't there.
Yeah, my
Kickstarter fever thing. Yeah,
exactly. My pledge helped offset. It's almost like being part of a world record kind of thing. Where like
it's just cool to be part of it. It doesn't hold any real value. It's just neat to be able to say, hey, I was there when they set this record.
You're just kind of part of that community when it first starts. I have, so this is just me speculating. Do not take this as and it's nothing against. There are some great folks that are involved with this Kickstarter. I'm going to tell you right now that if you have backed this Kickstarter and you have seen the list of names, I think let me see if I can bring the names of the folks that are collaborating on this, that are designing and everything. There's at least 6 people that I know personally that are a part of this project, and that's actually one of the reasons why I backed it, just because of the fact that I'm very excited for them to be a part of it. I'm going to tell you to go check out, Google their names that are of the folks that are a part of this Kickstarter, because there are some very, very talented folks here that I'm a big fan of, that I think that you should love what other stuff that they've put out. Again, it kind of goes back to the whole, if this is your first RPG game, here's a whole laundry list of folks that have put out some very successful, fun RPGs in the past as well. So yeah, just that's not one of my concerns. That's just one of the things I want to bring to your attention. There's a couple concerns here. Whenever something like this explodes, and they knock stretch goal after stretch goal after stretch goal after stretch goal, and you're just racing to put up another list of stretch goals, I'm going to give folks a little bit of inside information on Kickstarters. Most of the time, Kickstarter stretch goals are already planned out in advance before the Kickstarter launches. They're used as a tool to kind of create hype, to keep interest going, to get people talking. I hope that all these stretch goals that they have planned already have already been factored in, because I think when is this? This is supposed to be out by February. Is that what they said?
February 2022. Yeah.
February.
Quite literally 6 months, which is no time at all. No time at all.
There's zero chance of that happening.
With the shipping situation that it is, with the amount of, and maybe they've already have it lined up. I don't know. I'm not.
Honestly, it doesn't matter if they do. There's no chance they're meeting a 6-month window.
Right.
It's just not happening.
It's very unlikely, but I hope it is the case. I
mean, people who back Kickstarters like this, though, they're used to. Like, they'll look at that. They're not even looking at the release date thing. They're like, "Hey, this is a cool game. I want it, and
I'll get it when it comes.
I'll get it when it comes out." Yeah, unless it blows that date by a year, then you're going to get a lot of grumbly people.
See, now here's the thing. Like, normally I would say yes. Us as Kickstarter backers, those of us that have already Kickstarted games, yes, we know that there's more than likely a delay. Like, we know that, hey, we should probably tack on 6 months on.
That's true. Yeah. Anyone who's a veteran backer is going to be like, yeah, that's not happening, and I'm fine with it.
My fear about this Kickstarter is that it's going to bring in a lot of not only new RPG players, but a lot of new Kickstarter users.
Well, well, let's just say that 15% value that we kind of speculated on earlier. If we stop the Kickstarter today at 35,000, that's nearly 30,000 people that are new to Kickstarter, new to role play games, that don't have the idea that these things can be delayed. And
I think your math's off, Ben.
30,000?
There's 35,000 people backing it. 15% can't be 30,000
Oh yeah,
people.
sorry. The 30,000 people know the 3,000. Yeah,
There you go.
the roughly 5,000 people.
Right. But still, you're
Yeah.
letting down that much, and you're going to have that many folks that are going to be like,
Well, yeah, but a lot of these people, even if they're new, they're going to be following the updates and the comments, and people will be talking about stuff like that, so they'll get a sense of it, I think.
I just hope that it doesn't ruin the experience for a new RPG player and a new Kickstarter user, because Kickstarter is a vital part of our tabletop industry right now. I know as much as retailers hate it, it's not going anywhere.
I know.
It's still going to.
It's been instrumental in getting new games made, that's for sure. I would question whether or not it's a vital part of the hobby, but definitely it's been instrumental in getting games made that would otherwise not have seen the light of day.
Right, absolutely. And I'm super excited for this project. I'm just concerned about. I know everybody's saying, "Oh, this is going to bring in so many new players. This is going to bring in so many new folks into the hobby." And yes, it is. It's going to bring in a good chunk of new players, and I'm so excited for that. I just don't want that first impression to be kind of a mixed. Like, yes, I'm excited about this, but man, it took like so long to get to me when originally I was told X and I got it in Y.
And that can be managed by Magpie.
Yeah, and I hope that they do that. They should, and they
pretty sure. Yeah, pretty sure
will.
most people will be understanding about it, honestly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much my one concern. And the other thing is that with the Kickstarter, I hope that with the stretch goals, I hope that they've planned these out so that
I wonder sometimes
don't bog the production time way down.
Like, I know that a lot of places probably, you're right, they probably plan, like, if their goal is, $50,000 to make the base product, I'm sure they've probably planned, like, I don't know, I'm just completely pulling this out of my butt here, but like another, like, maybe 200% profit on top of that as Kickstarter goals. And then beyond that, I think it's going to be a little bit hazy, because, like, I mean, you can always ask people too, like, hey, do you want to be a stretch goal at like $4.5 million if we get there? Like, would you be okay with writing a small playbook about this? But then like when the Kickstarter ends, then you've got like 35 irons and 35 fires, and you're hoping like some of them are going to be super fast about it, some of them are going to be super slow about it.
Right.
That's just kind of a risk you take when you get to that level of success, I guess.
It'll be interesting to see what they have, because we're not even a week into the Kickstarter, and we've got all of these stretch goals. We've got all these products. Like, we've got more than 3 weeks left to go.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
there's always that the middle 2 weeks of any month-long Kickstarter.
Right. Yeah. But what else are they going to put out there? Like, are they going to be able to continue the way that they're going, or are they going to change it up and say, okay, well, since we hit X amount and we budgeted for this amount and we've got stretch goals planned up, do we switch over to digital rewards? And we get them to you when we get to them.
You know what I wish Kickstarters would do after a certain point, like say your Kickstarter does run out of stretch goals and you've basically got everything that you need to do everything right. After that, just say, you know what, if you continue to donate to this, we'll start eating into shipping costs for everybody. So like if you get to like $4.5 million and you're done with your money getting stretch goals, and you still get another 500,000 from people who are just interested in backing, put that money towards wiping out shipping costs. Don't just, like, you don't, like, sure, for certain, like, give your staff bonuses. I mean, that's just a nice thing to do.
Absolutely.
But look at that as an option too. Like, wouldn't you be ecstatic to back another Kickstarter from these people if they were to say, "Hey, we have $350,000. That's basically extra money. We're going to basically just chuck that at shipping and make sure everybody gets either massively reduced or free shipping." Like, as an international backer, that would be huge for me.
I'm going to tell you right now, because shipping rates are not going to just plummet, over these next, 6 months or 12 months.
No.
They're only, more than likely, they're only going to increase. So I hope that they've, I'm sure that they've probably factored in that in. Let's get to some of the chat here that we've got, because I think Eric's got some, and Matt J. Let's get. Eric says, "I'm more scared for the Root RPG and Urban Shadows Second Edition. Magpie will want to keep a good relationship with Viacom, and other projects may suffer a little." Yeah, that's another thing when you've got a smaller publisher, when they've got some of these, when they've got lots of different lines, and we've seen this with other publishers. A lot of times, maybe they've planned this and they've already brought on more staff and more designers, more authors, more writers, to address the other lines. I'm very excited for the Root RPG. I backed that project. I also backed Urban Shadows. I know that they'll both. I'm curious to see Root once it all is all said and done. So yeah, I can understand that hesitancy too, Eric, as far as if this is where your main money is, putting food on the table and paying your bills, you do kind of put a lot more attention on it.
Hopefully they have enough people on staff that they can do both at the same time.
And we've seen other smaller Kickstarter companies have these growing pains before too, when they hit it really big. Yeah. So definitely grab some of this money that's coming in and hire more staff and stay on top of it.
Rather than putting it into flashy content and stuff like that, make sure your infrastructure is capable of providing what you're trying to push out.
Yeah.
You've seen a lot of Kickstarters come out and it's like, hey, we only expected to get $50,000 and now we're at $3.5 million. We have no idea what we're doing now.
$4.2 million for an RPG. That just after not even 1 week.
Well, see, and the problem too with companies like Magpie, when they get multiple Kickstarters going, a lot of it is a scheduling thing too that they have to consider. Like they've probably had this Avatar thing in the works for months, if not half a year or more. So now they were saying, okay, we plan to launch this at this time, and we have to meet this because the creative people that we've hired to support this are only available at this time. And if we blow that window, then they're on other projects, so they kind of have to push forward sometimes with things that may not necessarily be the most wonderful timing in the world.
Matt J actually has a comment here that says, today's update suggests that they ran out of stretch goals, which I don't doubt, because it looks like a lot of stretch goals were unlocked there already. More are coming, but have to be approved by the licensor. Suggests stretch goals were pre-planned, but not enough of them.
That is big. Licensor approval is huge. We've seen delays previously with a lot of the Star Wars properties from Fantasy Flight Games and Asmodee, where they announced something, and because it wasn't right, and the mouse said not yet,
they opened their big mouth and didn't have authority.
It was kind of that way with the Cloning Marines operations manual for Alien. We had that all written and ready to go. We were just waiting for Disney approval, and it just kind of where
it got bogged down. Yep, gotta have somebody look at it.
Yeah. So whenever you work with big IPs like this, there is a lot of things behind the scenes that you have to kind of deal with, and that's another thing that I hope I hope they switch to like digital stretch goals going forward instead of physical stretch goals, because I think those will be a lot easier to get out without bogging down the rest of the production, and you can get them to your backers a lot easier with less expense. And
I always worry about that with physical stretch goals when they start adding stuff like that in. Like, here's a new race, here's a new region, here's a new map, here's a new XYZ. I mean, if they're planned out, fine. If you have the resources in place already and you've already touched base with people, that's okay. But when you start padding your book, your physical book, all of a sudden you run into all sorts of logistics issues as well. Is the spine of the book capable of supporting that many pages? Can we still have the high quality page count? Can we still have all these fancy little doodads and add-ons?
Well, and I mean,
Sometimes
as you increase the size of the book, you can fit less books per container. So now
That's
you
right.
have to get
Yep.
more containers.
exactly. Like
And your
So-
shipping goes up
every
too.
little thing
Yeah.
affects everything else past it. So
Yeah.
you have to be careful with that. And if your book shoots up from like an expected size of 200 to 300 pages, like that's a huge increase to deal with.
Ligma Balls says pre-planned stretch goals are not a bad thing, though. No, they're not, and
No,
that's exactly.
no.
I
It's a smart thing, actually.
it's the smart thing. That's what I hope most Kickstarters do. I know that most Kickstarters that have done it a time or two have done that, and they've just used it as a marketing tool more than anything else. They also say I'm more surprised at how much of the stretch goals are digital rewards. I think that I think this is where I hope that they kind of lean towards this as to offer digital stretch goals for the rest of the campaign and then make physical items for those stretch goals, like maybe they're an adventure or booklet or whatever, but put those out in retail. So then that way all these folks that have backed this Kickstarter on the Kickstarter itself have a reason to go to retail and pick up the supplements. They might have them digitally, but we all know RPG kicks. We're all RPG addicts here. Like we all know that we love those Dead Tree versions in our hands more than we like to see them on our screens. Like if we really like, if you're anything like me, you know that I have to have more than one copy of an RPG if I really love it. And I think this is one of those things that
Doug's a little weird like that.
I do. I have to have the digital copy. Sometimes if I have to have the digital copy and I have to have the physical copy. If I really, really love an RPG, not only do I have a digital copy and a physical copy, but I also have an archive copy
Yeah.
that I set aside and that goes into my library on my shelf. And that's the pretty one that I take a look at that I just go, oh,
Because
yes.
Doug is made of money, everyone.
I am not made of money, and I don't do that as much as I used to. But there are RPGs that I do that with just because, man, I love having that pristine book right on the shelf. And yep, I'll put that book in my backpack and take it to a con, and I don't care if it gets
That's why I like Alan's stuff when I back it his like deluxe levels. You get the hardcover that goes on the shelf, soft cover hits the table.
Yeah, exactly. Now, as to the question that this segment is about is, will the Avatar Legends role-playing game change the RPG market? I'm going to say it might get more folks playing PBTA, but I don't think it's going to change the market substantially. I think you're going to get a lot of folks that are new that will probably enjoy playing Avatar, and I hope that those folks go and dabble in some of these other games that are out there. But I don't know if you're going to see PBTA change the what's the word I'm looking for? 5th edition
Landscape of gaming.
Yeah, the landscape of 5th edition and Pathfinder, as they have those two games. I went to it was a toy and gaming store this last weekend, and they had games there, and they also had RPG books, and all the RPG books were either D&D or Pathfinder, and that's pretty common with most game stores that are like that. I don't see this game changing that. I
don't think so.
I think the majority of players are always going to be 5th edition and 3.5 or whatever, Pathfinder or whatever you want to say. I'm really excited though that it is going to bring more folks to this hobby, and I hope that this Kickstarter is such a great experience and they get so excited about the Avatar RPG that they want to look at other RPGs. Like that's on us as fans of RPGs. Like we have to be welcoming of these new players, and we have to say, "Hey, we're so glad that you're here. We're excited about your RPG, this Avatar RPG as well. But have you taken a look at this game? Have you taken a look at this game?" Like, I think that that's what we need to do. Like, we need to, if we really want to change,
push them, huh?
well, no, but you know,
Come
we
here,
have to,
come
we have to be
here.
welcoming, but
Come
we
here.
also, but we also
That's
want to, we also want to, you know, show the excitement that we have for this hobby, you know, and just tell them that, hey, yeah, this is just the first step into a larger world, right? Right, Ben? If I'm quoting
To paraphrase.
Star Wars,
Yeah.
I mean,
It sounds very much like the first hit is free to me, but okay.
I
no,
mean,
it's not. But
no, it's $75.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
And it's a good hit for $75.
It is. It is.
I think this game, would allow a lot of people, maybe parents who want to get their kids into the gaming if they're already into gaming.
Mm-hmm.
This game, like Powered by the Apocalypse, is a great way to, like, if your kids watch Avatar and they're running around in the backyard, airbending and firebending and chucking stuff at each other, Powered by the Apocalypse Avatar is going to definitely be an easy way to get them sitting at a table saying, okay, so you're an airbender and this guy's a firebender and he's trying to steal this thing. How are you going to stop him? Because it's a really simple mechanic game. It's just 2d6 plus a bonus. And then you're negotiating with the players.
Yep.
In every instance. Anytime you roll dice in that game, you're negotiating with your players as to what happens, what the outcome is. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it amazing? You know, so I think you could see this game being used by a lot of experienced gamers to easily introduce their kids into role-playing games. Whether or not they move on from PBTA to something else is, you know, up in the air. But I think it definitely is an easier intro than 5th edition, by far.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. It will be interesting to see if the success of this Kickstarter takes, if other folks with very popular IPs go, hey, this worked really well for Avatar, will it work really well for our IP?
Yeah.
You know, but I don't know how much, you know, a lot of these companies, they don't really look at the RPG market to begin with. But this might make them stand up and take a look, because
even if
when
they're
you're
not looking, Magpie could approach them and say, hey, we did an Avatar RPG. Look at how much money we pulled in on Kickstarter for it. You have a cool IP that we'd like to make an RPG for. You mind if we get negotiating?
Yep, absolutely.
It's a pretty good entry for Magpie if they pull this off. It could go to lots of even anime places.
Yeah, I
Get an anime series.
Once you hit 4.2 million, I think you're going to see, you know, some of these folks with
People will
the
start to
IPs go, oh, maybe
They
there
have some
is a
negotiating
thing
power
here.
then. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine if they approached the folks who do Naruto.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we managed to get Avatar out the door, and look at all the cool things we did for it. Give us your IP, because really Naruto is not miles different from a source book for PBTA than Avatar. I mean, you have your different clans with their different abilities. It would be pretty easy, I think, to represent that. I have no idea if there's already an IP Naruto RPG out there. I've never looked for it.
I don't know,
But
to be honest.
it would definitely be a cool thing for Magpie to shoot for next.
LB says he wants to know, or they want to know, what pledge tier do you guys have? Personally, I've backed this Kickstarter. I like I said, I'm not a fan of. I have surface knowledge of Avatar. I've never watched any of the shows. I've tried watching the movie. I've backed it, but I'm a big fan of a lot of folks that are involved with this Kickstarter and that have designed it and have written for it. So just based on that alone, I wanted to support the, just with my budget is not as big as it used to be, because now I'm this is my full-time gig. So I don't have the funds as much as I would love to go, you know, full on with this Kickstarter. I just backed to the digital. I've got the $20 pledge. Even that's a huge steal, by the way. That's a huge value.
Yeah,
for
the deal is pretty
these
amazing.
for the PDFs.
I honestly look at the values that Magpie is putting out here, and I shake my head because they're too good. Like, and I think because of that, we might see more new players get into it. I think that this Kickstarter is designed for new player capture because it's cheap. RPG players don't mind dropping $200 on a whole kit and caboodle RPG game.
Yeah, not at all.
But non-RPG players go $75. That's a month worth of coffee. I could do that.
Yeah.
And I'll say that I've backed it at the $20 level. I do this a lot with Kickstarters, just to get the PDFs, because I like to support a lot of Kickstarters, and that's the least expensive way to do it. But I still want to give some sort of support.
And that's how he ropes me in, folks.
And and it also it's kind of the most profitable for the publisher or whoever's putting the Kickstarter out, because they just have to send me a link to download the PDFs, and that's it. You know, they get their money, and they don't have to worry about shipping. They don't have to worry about getting any physical products made. So that's another reason why I back a lot of these now at digital levels. If I am still on the fence as to whether or not, once this pledge manager comes around, kind of just switching it up to the physical pledge level, just to kind of, because I'm kind of at that point where I probably will. And that's one thing that you can do with these Kickstarters, which is awesome. And even though once it's all said and done, just think about that. Think about that at the end of once this Kickstarter is done and it's had, probably 6 million or so, in funding. Think of all the people that are going to increase their pledge levels or add stuff on or late back. It's going to be crazy.
I'm not an Avatar fan. The books look great. The production values look wonderful. The deluxe dice set that Level Up is doing makes me want to back this to get those dice.
Yeah. When Doug scrolled past that, I was like, wait, I didn't see that when I looked at the Kickstarter.
It's like, oh, okay. I will throw $50 your way plus $100 for this dice set.
Their Adventurers Curated Dice thing that they just finished up. I'm neck deep in that.
So yeah, I'm like I said, I did not create this episode to bash this project at all. I'm very excited for it. I think the majority of the RPG industry is, and the fans and everyone are excited for this.
Everyone wants this to succeed because the potential for it to be amazing for the industry, amazing for Magpie, amazing for the players is so big.
Right.
Like, we want this to succeed. They're doing cool things with retailer pledges. That's awesome. I'm excited for that as a retailer. Like, this is, I think we are all rooting for this, and we're holding our breath at something that, like, please don't let anything go wrong.
Right.
Because the fallout, if it does go wrong, could be big too. So it's high risk, high reward, I think. So.
Let's get to the chat just a little bit more before we sign off. Matt J says, it seems like usually 5e Pathfinder is the gateway drug to RPGs, and then they find others. This has potential to reverse that, to take that role as gateway. Yes, I totally agree. I love the fact that this might be one of those RPGs. It's large enough to go, oh yeah. And you know what's going to be really cool? 20 years from now, 30 years from now, people are going to be like, when you talk about RPGs, they're gonna be like, yeah, my first RPG was Avatar Legends. Like, how cool is that gonna be to hear? Like, when folks, like, that's what got me into the hobby. Like, because I'll tell you what, I love telling folks that Star Wars the RPG was my first RPG when, by West End Games. Like, that I'm such a big fan of the Star Wars, and like, I love that game so much that, like, I feel like it's like pride or something. Like, you're gonna have that. These fans are gonna have that in 20 years, 30 years down the road. Like, that to me is really exciting. That a whole nother generation are gonna have what I have for this one game. They're gonna have it for theirs. That's Matt says, but it won't reinvent the industry. Probably won't. Probably won't.
No, I don't think. Honestly, so many role playing games come out now on Kickstarter that are really cool and have really amazing settings and all kinds of cool stuff like level up dice and stuff like that. There, enough of them have hit now that are really great games, but they just don't have the visibility and the traction that things like 5e and Pathfinder and Powered by the Apocalypse is a pretty high up there on its visibility scale now. They just don't have that presence on the shelf. Like recently, the game store that I was in most recently, actually, every time I walked by a display that had D&D on it, that iconic D&D logo draws the eye. It just does every time. So anytime you walk past that, you're like, ooh, what's that? Oh, just something for D&D. Okay. You know, whether or not you want it or not, it's got your attention. That, you know?
LB says, I hope some Viacom executive sees the Kickstarter and decides to renew the Avatar series. It wouldn't surprise me if it's not making them
Legend
pay
of
attention.
Korra was a wild success, and so was the original Avatar. So they could easily do another series in that, but I think they're probably treading on eggshells a bit because they don't want to do it wrong.
Yeah, you've got two extremely successful, extremely beloved series. If you fire a third one and it's bad, it gets labeled a cash grab, and things go bad.
They're probably looking like at a really massive, like, if you're going to give us a script for this, we need to see an amazing script for this.
Yes, I will. I think that's probably going to wrap it up for our talk about the Avatar Legends, the Kickstarter from Magpie Games. Again, I will repeat that if you are interested in the Kickstarter that we showed on screen here, definitely go check it out. I put the link in the description of this video, and then I also put the link to the Quick Start down there. So if you would like to try this game out before the game even is printed in on shelves, that are just go ahead and give it a try, because I think you'll probably really enjoy it. And let us know in the comments if you back this Kickstarter, because I'd love to hear it. And if this is your first RPG that you've ever backed, also let us know in the comments. And
that would be really interesting, actually.
I would
like to actually like talk to a first time backer just to see like what pushed you over. Like, are you just backing this because it's Avatar and you love Avatar and you want to collect it, or is there actually a plan to step in and play this? I think you're going to see a lot of that.
Yeah, I hope you have. There's probably a little mix of both, but if you back this and this is your first RPG and you're really excited to start dabbling in role playing games, let us know in the comments. I'd love to welcome you to the community first and foremost, but we'd also love to tell you, that some great games out there, and we're just as excited as you are for this game. And maybe you can also give us some insight, some information on Avatar. Both Ben and I are
amateurs,
not huge fans of this this IP.
Sell me on it.
Exactly.
I want to be sold.
Watch like 5 episodes of the series and you will want to play. You like, really, there's throughout the series they run into so many interesting people and basically what would count as NPCs, honestly, as they travel across the world of Avatar. It just begs you to want to play in the world, because they touch on things for one episode and then maybe again 5-10 episodes later they have a recurring role kind of thing happen, and they get you interested in something, and then they're like, okay, we're off to the next thing, and everybody's like, wait, but it's like Doctor Who, when he takes off and you're just like, no, stay there for the next 7 episodes, we want to learn more.
Okay, so I want to thank everyone for joining us. If you've watched all this way and you haven't already, please hit that like button down below. We would greatly appreciate it. It definitely helps us grow as a show. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, that little bell notification that lets you know every single time we go live, upload new content. We'd love to have you as part of this show every week, and we really greatly appreciate everyone that joined us in the chat, and it was great listening to everyone's comments and having you all share along with us this week. So thank you all very much. We will see you all next week. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you would be so kind, and make sure you hit that like, comment, and subscribe, all the YouTube jazz that we're supposed to do here. It really is greatly appreciated. And if you'd like to support us more, you can check us out on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/Victory Condition Gaming. We have all sorts of Patreon perks, and it definitely helps support our show. Thank you so much.